Welcome to our Rotherham Sendias video about considering a school to name in an EHC plan. This video is helpful for when you are due a draft EHC plan, considering a change of school from an annual review of an EHC plan, or in preparation for appealing the school named in section I of a final EHC plan. Although there are details specific to an appeal, please take a look at our video on things to consider before appealing to the SEND Tribunal. So we're often asked, when is the right time to think about which school will be named in an EHC plan? If it's been agreed for your child to be assessed for an EHC needs assessment, you might start to ask yourself, what if an EHC plan's issued? Which school would be in a good position to provide the appropriate education and meet my child's needs? Or, if there have also been some discussions at your child's annual review, if you've already got an EHC plan, about the possible change of a school. This video will try to answer some questions we're often asked when parents start to think about choosing a school. So if someone in your child's mainstream school have suggested a special school for them, do you have to agree? The very quick answer to that is no. If you want your child or young person to attend a mainstream school, the local authority would only be able to refuse that if the placement would be incompatible with the efficient education of other students, and if there were no reasonable steps the school and the local authority could take to remove that incompatibility. In this situation, other students would be students that your child would have regular day-to-day contact with. If you're told that your child's needs are too great for a mainstream education, you can challenge this message, as this is not a reason in law for refusing a mainstream school. It is important to note, however, that this is a right to a mainstream education, but not necessarily a right to a particular mainstream school. If you are starting to think about a different school for your child, here are some top tips for considering a change of school. Firstly, consider any prior challenges your child may be experiencing in the school that they're at. For example, has your child experienced regular exclusions, or are they at risk of permanent exclusion moving forward? Would more detailed provision and support via an EHC plan help to prevent further breaches of the school behaviour policy? Or are you questioning if this will make any difference? Speak to your child. Are they happy in their school? How would they feel about a possible change? Speak with your school's SENCO or other professionals that are involved. What are their thoughts on the current placement continuing, with more detailed support being allocated via an EHC plan? Listen carefully to any worries or specific questions that they might have. Next, and probably most importantly, take time to reflect on all of the above information that you've gathered. And then consider your own thoughts and feelings too. You have a choice. You might feel now is not the right time to change settings for your child. You might wish to see if there are positive changes once an EHC plan is issued, and you might wish to give this more time before considering any significant changes for your child. Remember, if you want your child to stay in the current mainstream school, you can request this at the draft EHC plan or at the annual review of the EHC. So what if you've thought about staying in their local mainstream school, but that you'd like to consider other options before you make a final decision? What do you do next? If you wish to consider other options, you might wish to be aware of the following information. The SEND Code of Practice says a parent or young person has a right to request any of the following types of school or college to be named in their EHC plan. This is a maintained school or nursery, and that includes mainstream and special schools, an academy, again including mainstream or special, an institute in the further education sector, a non-maintained special school, or a Section 41 school, and you can find a copy of the Section 41 list in this link here. For future reference in this video, I'm now going to refer to all of the above types of schools further as the list. So what if you're thinking about different schools, but the type of school that you like isn't on the list? What happens in that situation? The local authority isn't under the same conditional duty to name a provider that's not on the list, but they must have regard to a principle that comes from Section 9 of the Education Act from 1996, and that says that children should be educated in accordance with their parents' wishes, as long as this is compatible with the provision of efficient instruction and training, and doesn't mean unreasonable public expenditure. The local authority should, however, be satisfied that the school would admit your child before naming it in a plan, because these types of providers are not subject to the duty to admit a child or young person, even if it's named in their plan, if they don't agree. So here's some top tips for considering a different school. Think about schools in your local area first. Lots of children like to be around children that they know and see on a regular basis in their own community. Although you might wish to consider a different school to the one your child currently attends, you might still prefer a mainstream education, and it is possible to ask for a different mainstream school to the one your child currently attends. You might also be aware of special schools in your local area, but not really know much about them. You could find a list of schools locally by visiting the Rotherham Send local offer, and their link is here. You might also find it useful to look at other local offers in local areas too, such as Doncaster, Barnsley and Sheffield, particularly if you live close to a border. We'd always recommend you start your search virtually. Most schools have websites, which would be helpful when considering if a school is suitable. You might wish to pay particular attention to the following points. Does the school offer education to your child's age group? There's no point looking at a school if the child isn't the right age for the school's cohort. If the school is a special school, does it offer education to children who have a particular special educational need or disability? For example, is it only a school for children with a diagnosis of autism? Or does the school only support students with a particular learning profile, such as moderate or severe learning difficulties? The above 2 points will help you to automatically rule out any inappropriate schools before going any further in your search. So if the school you're looking at is appropriate to your child's age and to their special educational needs or disability, you might then wish to consider the following 2. Is the school within travelling distance? There's statutory guidance on home to school transport, and that states, as a general rule, the maximum journey time for a child of primary school age should be about 45 minutes each way, and 75 minutes each way for a child of secondary school age. This includes any time taken to walk to a particular pickup point, but there will of course be circumstances in which this is not possible. You might also wish to take a look at some relevant school policies. Some useful starting points are the SEND policy, their behaviour policy or exclusions policy, particularly if your child experiences previous exclusions or has challenges regulating their behaviours. If your child has intimate care needs or toileting needs, have the school got an intimate care policy? If they have particular communication needs, does the school have a communication policy that you can take a look at? If your child may have experienced some physical intervention historically, particularly where they might be running the risk of making themselves unsafe or others unsafe, does the school that you're looking at use strategies such as Team Teach, for example? Are there policies related to that? So once you've had a look at the websites and you've narrowed down your search by using the school sites, you might now find it helpful to give the school a ring with some clarifying questions. It might be helpful to speak with someone such as the SENCO at this point. Some helpful questions might be as follows. How many children are currently on school roll? How big are the class sizes that will be in your child's year group? How many staff work in those classrooms where your child might come into contact with them? How do you communicate with parents if parents aren't on site every day to drop off or pick up? Is the school currently over capacity? Although the answer to this question shouldn't put you off moving forwards to next steps, but it is useful to be aware of. If the information from their websites has left you with further need to clarify on things such as SEND, age or ability, you might wish to gain clarity on these issues too. So some final steps in your search for a school. Once you've narrowed down your search to 1 or 2 schools, you might now wish to arrange a visit. Please be aware that some schools, particularly special schools, can be overwhelmed by requests for visits. As such, some have started to offer visits on a group basis or have allocated specific time slots to ensure this is manageable and doesn't interfere with their current children. As a result, you might wish to consider the time available to you, particularly if you've already been issued with your draft EHC plan, as you only have 15 calendar days to communicate with the local authority which school you would like to have named in the plan. Or, if you consider an appeal or have already lodged the appeal to the school, there are timescales around that too. So once you've got your visit organised, here's some things to consider. See the school through your child's eyes. If your child has sensory needs, consider how they would manage with building, lighting, sound quality, etc. You might wish to pay particular notice of things such as the hall or dining hall, corridors and toilet areas. If your child has physical needs and perhaps makes use of equipment, you may wish to pay particular attention to the flooring, steps, door widths, etc. Space available to enable your child to get around easily and space to store any equipment that might be needed. If your child has personal care needs, you might wish to pay particular attention to the toileting or changing area. If needed, are there adjustable beds or appropriate space and the right type of toileting equipment, such as hoists, etc. if they're needed. If your child finds the classroom can be overwhelming, are there time-out spaces or sensory spaces that could be made use of? If your child has a fight or flight response, are their grounds secure? Are the doors provided with higher handles or fobbed locks, for example? Is the school situated on or close to a very busy main road? This is not an exhaustive list. However, things you see may mean you need further clarity, so don't be afraid to ask questions. So following your visits and your investigations, you might now have a clear idea of which school you would like to name. So what do you do next? We'd suggest that you now check what type of school it is you're asking for. If you remember on one of the previous slides, we talked about a list of schools that the local authority would have to consider. You can check on the following website to see what type of school you're asking for. Here's the link to the website, and this is called the EduBase website. This is what it looks like, and you just type the name of your preferred school here and press search, and it would give you information telling you what type of school it is. You might also remember that on the list there was something called a Section 41 school. To check if your school that you're asking for is a Section 41 school, click on the link here. This will be the list that comes up, and you'll be able to have a look through to see if the school that you are interested in is on this Section 41 list. So another question that we get asked is that you've been told a consultation's been sent, but you don't know what that actually means. When you've got an idea of which school it is you would like, you need to tell the local authority what school you would like to have named on their EHC plan. It's always helpful to do this formally and in writing. This could be via the EHC hub or by emailing your case coordinator in the EHC team. You should find their email address on the EHC hub, or alternatively could ask your current school, as they'll also have their email address. The local authority have to send a copy of your child's draft or final EHC plan, if it's following an annual review, to the school you've requested. The local authority will ask the school if they're able to meet your child's needs and if they're able to offer your child a place. Please be aware that the local authority can also send a copy of your child's EHC plan to other schools that they also feel could meet needs. The schools are provided with 15 calendar days to respond, and this is called the consultation period. So can the school or local authority say no to the school that you've asked for? If the school you have asked for is a type of school that's on the list, the local authority have a conditional duty to name your preferred school unless one of the following reasons is relevant. The school would be inappropriate to your child's age, ability, aptitude or SEN. Placing your child in that school would be incompatible with the education of others or the efficient use of resources. If the school you have requested is a type that's not on the list, the local authority is not under the same conditional duty to name that school, but must consider that children should be educated in accordance with their parents' wishes, so long as this is compatible with the provision of efficient instruction and training and doesn't mean unreasonable public expenditure. The local authority need to be satisfied that that particular school would admit your child before naming it in a plan. Depending on your situation, you might find some of our other videos useful. For example, an EHC needs assessment and draft EHC plan, or we have a video on options following a final EHC plan. We have a video on annual review process and things to consider before lodging an appeal. So what if this information or the other videos I've mentioned haven't answered your question? What can you do now? If you'd like to get a response to a specific question about choosing a school for an EHC plan, please make use of our Contact Us page of our website and post your question on there, providing as much detail as you can. We aim to respond to your inquiry within 5 working days. We hope you found this video and information helpful.